That cracks me up because I agree. I think it both can be true.
At the same time.
I know. And it's crazy. It's not like, oh, hey, you missed it. Well, that's true too.
You're right, and you're also right.
Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to our weekend show of Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the movie The Iron Claw.
Rebecca, we have some streaming Hollywood news.
Well, Bob Iger better move over because there might be a new streaming game in town.
Ooh, let's get started.
Fritz von Erich has always wanted the best for his sons, but what he wants is to be the most feared family in wrestling. With rumors of a curse already affecting his brothers, Kevin becomes the most eager to prove that the curse has no bearing on their lives. But when bodies pile up and dreams slip through the family's grasp, one has to ask, should some goals stay out of reach?
Rebecca, let's talk about the casting first.
The casting is what sold me on this movie. The Von Erichs are known as almost a instrumental tragedy in what wrestling can be in the lives of the people wrestling.
Yes. And you knew, I laughed because I lived through this, right? I was a teenager during a lot of this. I don't remember any of this. And granted, I'm probably not the wrestling kind of gal. I mean, high school kind of thing. But I didn't know anything about it. And I just remember watching the trailer. And as you said, the casting, I was just pulled in. The moment I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, and I remember we were sitting next to each other and you went, and you're like, oh, it's tragic. It's so tragic. And I'm trying to avoid spoilers at all costs. But I was so interested in the casting. The casting pulled me in too.
It was hilarious because before every show,
yes,
we have an outline with our research, what we want to talk about, who we're spotlighting.
Yes.
All of that.
Yes.
I specifically did not volunteer for this because I wanted you to see how real this movie was going to get. If you don't know the story of the Von Erichs, it feels like an almost Shakespearean pile-up of tragedy.
I'm laughing. The Shakespearean wrestling, if you will. It's true. We do the research. Obviously, we wanted to have a little information. And I remember I would read and I would just stop and I would, check a few different sources. I'm like, no, a few sentences. Because I wanted to go in, just like I've talked about going into other movies, I wanted to go in and I wanted the director, the screenwriters, the actors, I wanted them to tell me the story they wanted me to know.
For me, it's interesting because I've spent a little bit of time when I was younger studying the history of wrestling, and to see the restraint involved in this adaptation was something of a miracle for me because I was so worried this was going to turn into a Lifetime Channel movie in some ways.
Oh, it could.
Especially because everything was drawn out. There's a good statement that you've made in the past, which is casting can make or break a material. And for me, that is true. But I like there to be some good material to start with.
I don't know if good acting can overcome bad screenwriting. I definitely know that good screenwriting cannot overcome bad acting. That I'm pretty sure about. But Zac Efron was in there. Jeremy Allen White was in there. Harris Dickinson was in there. Our gal from News Radio was Mom. Yeah. And even Holt McCauley, he was in there. And I remember him from Mindhunter.
Well, and you love Lily James. I'm really happy to see you fall into the Lily James trap.
I laughed when I saw her name. I'm like, oh, she was in yesterday. She was so sweet. And she was great. She was Kevin's wife.
What was interesting to me was arguably the most notable name out of the cast to our modern audiences, especially people my generation.
Oh, okay.
Zac Efron.
Yes.
That was the clincher for me. I was nervous. I've seen him in other films where he's decent at what he does.
Well, in musicals, too. He's a pretty talented guy.
You remember watching Hairspray with me.
Correct. We saw Hairspray together and High School Musical also.
Yes. I remember I watched those with you.
Yeah, no. And to me, it was...
This is not a musical, just to be clear.
Correct, right? They're not in the ring. But you had made the statement just a few seconds ago. You were talking about the restraint in the screenplay. Did you want to talk more about that? I think that was an important point.
A lot of these character actors that I do like in the film, like Jeremy Allen White, like Maura Tierney, like Harris Dickinson,
yes,
they're known for understating their performances in order to communicate this to the audience. And I was really surprised because if you look up the Von Erichs family, there's so much more that they did not get into.
Yes.
It's hinted at. And it's almost in a, if you know kind of way.
Right, kind of a wink.
But it's not a wink. It's a, it's kind of a gentle wink.
Let's talk about that because I think that was significant to me. Because after the movie, clearly I was more intrigued, I was more interested, and spoilers, I could take them now. And I remember on our way to the studio, I was reading some of that information to you. And no, I don't read and drive at the same time. But I was reading it to you, and it was so much bigger and wilder than the movie even presented. But the material that they gave was enough to convey the feeling, the tone, the characters. His mother, my goodness, she would say a few things. And I remember after the movie, we were like, she is just in denial, I think was your phrase. And I'm thinking, she is eerie. Her performance, and I couldn't even tell you how many things she said. I know she had said a few things before a specific event. She was talking to Lily James's character, Kevin's girlfriend at the time. It just sent chills down my spine. I mean, like even now I'm like, oh my goodness, that was just oof. And his dad, Fritz.
Well, and the other thing that helps sell this movie to me is the production design.
Oh, the production design was amazing.
It felt very lived in. I know you and I talk a lot about the lived in quality.
Yes.
Even the production design had some poetic qualities to it. There's a scene after one of the first big passings has occurred.
Yes.
And even just the lighting tonality, the lighting design. I can't talk enough about how this movie was a complete experience that I just enjoyed.
Yes, that's a good way to say it.
Give or take one scene. But you could argue that it's a scene that the character is imagining in a way that helps them cope. And they kind of hint at that as well.
Correct. And I believe it was based on actual conversations. We talked about there was a transition scene that was really creative and literally added to the suspense quality in terms of what will happen here. And then even after it was decided, you didn't know the outcome until literally it unfolded. It didn't say, oh, boom, slap. It was just, you're just pulled in. The cinematography was incredible.
That's a good director that knows how to take a screenplay
yes,
and keep his audience on a knife's edge. You're constantly wondering, I know a lot more about the story about the Von Erichs than you do, but
yes.
I was still entranced by how seamless and cohesive scenes felt. It didn't feel like a series of vignettes like, oh, somebody dies here. Oh, wait, 20 minutes later, somebody else dies. Now we're grieving them. It just felt like smooth. I like smooth movies. And there's a time and place for vignette style movies.
Ben, this could have been a vignette movie. This outcome, this event, this fight, this. But as you said, it felt very fluid. And I was thinking about, we had done an early review of Boys in the Boat. And we were talking about how we didn't feel that we knew more than maybe one, maybe two of the men that were rowing. All of the brothers, I felt like I knew, even Kevin's girlfriend.
And I thought that was really impressive, too, considering there's a brother that's not even in the movie.
That's correct. The young brother who passed away. But it just started off, and understandably, right? You had talked about there's tragedy, there's tragedy, there's tragedy.
Oh, there's layers. This production team is a smart production team. We even talked about some of the needle drop moments were very smart and deliberate in their choices. First, I kind of chalk some of them up just to being, hey, this is the period music that it's popular in. But when I re-dove into some of it, because I'm like, why would you choose this song? And then I went later and I dug into the history of the song. Some of the things I'd forgotten kind of resurfaced. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys are smart.
And I remember we had talked further about that there was a Rush song that they had used that really told the story. I remember we were talking about it wasn't just of the time period, because I remember laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, my brothers and all of his friends used to listen to this. I'm like, ah. And I just sort of tuned it out. No offense to my brother. I'm like, don't make me listen to that song again. But it turned out to be, the lyrics were so smart because it was telling the story. And there was a part where Kevin, who was played by Zac Efron, who played Kevin, the son. And there was a part where he narrates, and I wrote it down, and I thought this sets the stage of the movie. And he said, ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. This is the very beginning.
Ever since I was a child, people said my family was cursed. Mom tried to protect us with God. Pop tried to protect us with wrestling. He said if we were the toughest, the strongest, nothing could ever hurt us. I believed him.
And that statement just gives me chills even talking about it. Not because it's Zac Efron talking about it, but because this movie lays its cards on the table. And if you catch them early, it rewards you. But if you don't catch them early, when you see them laid face up, it still impacts you well.
It does. And I think that there could be any part of the movie you could come in and get pulled into. In the suspense part, I know we talked briefly about the cinematography, but there was a scene where Kevin was talking to his brother David, and it was this very intimate moment. And as we were saying, the setting could have felt cramped and uncomfortable. It's interesting. It didn't feel like a documentary, because there's some movies that we've gone to that where they feel kind of documentary-ish, which about a true story, this could feel that way. It didn't feel that way, but it didn't feel as if you were intruding on a moment. It just felt like you were part of it because it was so expansive.
I think that's a smart cinematographer that recognizes that the audience is going to feel whatever tension the space is going to create. That's why, even though there were some overhead shots that they did that I didn't like, I understood why they were doing them.
That's huge, though, if you think about it, because as you said, it may not be your creative choice or the one that you may like the best. But if you don't know why they're doing it,
it just feels pointless and ornamental at that point.
Correct. It just fades away. I'm just amazed by this movie still. It's definitely not I'll forget it in 2 days.
I was doing a little experiment in my head.
Sure.
We had a few people walk out of our screening.
That is true.
So I would just imagine if the movie stopped where they walked out, how that would affect the movie. Would it be bad? Would it be negative? Would it make it a lesser movie? And every time in my head, I'm like, hey, if you ended there, it would still be a good movie.
I find it fascinating because most movie screenings we go to, people do not walk out. And I don't know if it was slow, if there was something personal happening or whatnot, or if it wasn't what people were expecting. They may have expected nonstop wrestling. And clearly, this isn't what this is. This is a family drama, if you will. Do we have any questions from the box?
From the trailer, you can tell this movie's about wrestling. Some people are wrestling fans, some people aren't wrestling fans. Do you need to be a wrestling fan to enjoy this movie, or is that really ancillary to the story?
I'm going to put this out there. I'm not a huge American wrestling fan. I find that sometimes it just feels like it's telling a story with people. I get annoyed that it presents itself as this sport, but it really has a predetermined outcome. I find my enjoyment in the characters of wrestling. I find my enjoyment in the stories that are created by these performers. I think this was a good movie. And the only other movie I think that can take this level of storytelling with wrestling is Warrior. And you know how many times me and the box have watched that movie.
Correct.
I feel like this is in the same camp. It does a great job at this.
Wow. The thought I had, I appreciated the story aspect because you're right. Wrestling tells a story, and I love stories and people's stories. So I appreciate that. But what was interesting, and I think one of the things that did not turn me off about this movie is, yes, they're characters. They changed their names, right? They were Atkinsons originally. However, it didn't feel like a character. There were some individuals they were wrestling that had more of a persona than they did. And I appreciated that it wasn't so glammed out or so exaggerated where I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm lost in the woods. And it wouldn't have had the tone that it did. It would have felt silly almost to me.
I think the tough part with anytime you have movies with American wrestlers,
Yes.
you have almost that precarious quality where if you step over the line, the audience immediately knows
Yes.
that it's a parody. And there's that very delicate balance of these are people in and out of the ring. And I think this movie did a great job of doing that.
I would agree with that.
Because so many wrestling movies that I've seen, they're good at one or the other. And I think to have this succeed as both is a testament to the cast and crew on this film.
Correct, because as you said, many movies have one avenue or one way to describe them in the genre. It's this kind of a movie, and I agree with you. I don't think that movie would fall into that.
There's a movie you and I both like. It's called Fighting with My Family.
Sure.
It's not the documentary, although it's based off the documentary.
Correct.
But I feel like it sells one of these avenues.
I would agree with that. I think this one does a more complete job.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the box?
We recently reviewed Boys in the Boat, and one of our criticisms was we got the information about the time period of the movie, meaning the boat and the competitions they are in, but we didn't learn anything after. Do you feel like this one did a better job of telling us about the characters and what happened after?
This whole movie is what happened after. I love the fact that this movie gave us time with each of the brothers. One of our main criticisms with Boys of the Boat was it only focused on two characters to the exclusion of everyone else, but it tempted us with glimpses at everyone else. This felt cohesive. You said that you got to know each of the brothers that were featured in this movie. I can't disagree with that.
And even the main character in Boys in the Boat, there was nothing that followed. It was snapshot now. It wasn't a complete picture. And his complete story was interesting, just like this story was told more through Kevin's eyes. However, had it not had the ending that it did, I would walk away saying, what happened? What happened? And I'm not adverse to reading more, understanding more, but I appreciated that because all of the tragedy, there were moments that were just tear-jerkers. And to not know what happened, if you go through this in your life, how do you respond? And so ultimately, in my mind, it was very much a story of hope. And had they skipped that part, we would have missed that.
I think they definitely hinted at it a lot better than Boys in the Boat, though, too.
Oh, 100%.
Even if they didn't give us an epilogue, which was interesting to see our cinema community respond to.
Yes.
So many of our cinema community members were like, wait, they didn't give you an epilogue?
I
like,
know,
yeah.
it's shocking. No offense, but hey, come on, guys.
Got my butt in the seat. Make it worth it.
Exactly. Thanks, George Clooney. Let's give it a Moth rating. We've been talking. I feel like we've been probably gushing more than talking, but
hey, that counts.
That counts. 1 to 5. What do you think, Rebecca?
4 Moth movie.
4 Moth movie. Number one reason for number 4.
This is a character drama. I think this is probably one of the most strongly cast ensembles that I've seen in a while. You and I were talking about all the other movies we've seen this year. There's only a few that I would like to go back to see again that I haven't already seen a million times.
Sure, right.
This is one I want to drag somebody to. Darren Aronofsky actually did a film called The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke a while back.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I feel like the tragedy was just heaped on too much, and that's kind of Aronofsky's style. I think this is a good snapshot of what tragedy looks like in a human life.
Wow. And a family. One family. Alrighty. My 5 moths have come back to see me. I would say, maybe surprise you a bit, on a scale 1 to 5, I would say it's a 5.
That does not surprise me because you were gushing about this on our way back to the studio. Iron Claw, Iron Claw, Iron Claw. Like, you couldn't wait to learn more. You couldn't wait to dive yourself back in.
Correct. I think the challenge is most 5 Moth movies, I will see over and over again. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Barbie is crossed over the line. Seen that, 4 times at this point, and love it every single time. But I agree with you, wanting to know more, having head knowledge, like, oh, this is interesting, but just having feelings around
Feelings
it.
for you is big.
And I don't think I'm like, well, you can't make me feel anything. I feel things pretty easily. However, just the chills and, as you said, the restraint and being able to tell the story and the lighting and the cinematography and the directing and the writing and the acting, it's just a total package movie.
I also want to point out, this is a testament to the cast.
Sure.
Most of the cast in this movie, you don't know from an artistic level.
Well, I know some of them, right? Shameless guy from years ago, and obviously News Radio, and my gal Lily James, Mindhunter, Dad, right? I mean, so
But you know them from like little pockets. You're not actively following several of their careers.
No, none of them. I would say.
A couple of the people in this movie, I've been following some of their careers, but I want to point out that you've taken the time to see them as they are in this movie.
To me, that's a good point, though. The testimony to me is also that I do know them from different pieces, and I was able to forget that or suspend that enough because they were compelling enough to me.
As the characters they are in this movie.
Correct. And human stories, family stories, I find great value in families and stories, and, the stories they tell each other, they tell themselves. And for this to go full circle, I think was really significant. I stand by my 5 Moth rating.
If you enjoyed our review on The Iron Claw, please like, which helps more viewers find our cinema community, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming reviews, and please share with your friends.
Rebecca, it is that time of the show to talk about who we are not sponsored by this week.
Still not sponsored, eh?
I know. It's a losing battle. This week we are not sponsored by Kennedy Industries.
Robert F. Kennedy come from the dead to not sponsor us? Wow, that's a letdown.
Yeah, right. He comes from the dead and still not sponsoring. Kennedy Industries is interesting. They have been in business for over 25 years.
Quarter of a century, not bad.
Quarter of a century. Their motto is, germs lose, you win.
Catchy and short.
Catchy and short. Their passion, and this is their words, their passion is to keep athletic facilities clean and safe.
Well, I can think of at least 20 reasons why that's a great idea.
I think it's pretty good. So Jack and Kathy, back in the day, they are located in Massachusetts. They started their company back in the garage. Everybody's back in the garage.
All roads lead back to the garage.
All roads lead back. They're doing all of their things. They're in their house. They're packing out products, and their products are cleaning products for athletic professionals.
What about the athletic not-so-professionals? Did they got stuff for that too?
So far, they haven't opened a line for that. Oh. But maybe if they don't sponsor us, maybe that they'll take that money that they could have taken sponsoring us and come up with some new amateur athletic products for people like us. We'll give them a shot. Their whole thing is in their garage and in their house, they're packing. Imagine they're pouring their little cleaners and coming up with all their products, which we'll talk about their products. As they raise their kids, Jack was working another job. I'm just imagining, Kathy's pouring all these little potions, and Jack comes home and he's packing them. Maybe their kids are doing something, licking the stamps. And,
yeah.
And everything goes out, and they said, once the momentum kicked in, which they freely state it finally kicked in, which made me laugh, now they ship over 50 products nationwide. And they have a fulfillment center too, just to be sure.
We're going to name all 50 to torture the box, or are you going to just name a couple this time?
Yeah, let's talk about some of their products. I did appreciate that their sports products were not only wrestling. That's why we pursued them. We thought, hey, we're doing a wrestling movie, Iron Claw. They like wrestling. No. But they do MMA, they do football, basketball, lacrosse, and yoga.
You get sweaty, they clean it.
I think that's kind of their model. So their products let's talk about their wrestling products, because they have a ton of products. But they have mat cleanup kits.
So what, spray and go?
Yeah, pretty much, right? Okay. And you'll appreciate this. They have a bucketless mop kit.
How does that work?
That's what they want you to come see them, and they'll explain it to you. It's trademarked and top secret.
Oh, so what? You spray the mop and then you just go like this? No bucket required?
I can't say it. They'll kill me.
Okay.
But they do, and they have the monster mop kit, and it doesn't pour some in. It's just
Inflate a mop?
Yeah, they just call it the monster mop kit. And they have 5-star ratings on these.
Ooh, 5 moss, eh?
5, exactly. They have 5 little wrestlers in their little ring. They also have surface disinfecting. That's your thing, right? Hand sanitizer, because everybody does hand sanitizer these days.
Yep.
Yep. The other product they have, which I think is funny, is, the wrestlers have their hair kind of, slick and kind of cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, their product is called Sports Deluxe, and they don't spell deluxe right, so I'm wondering if that's kind of copyrighted too. But it's tea tree oil, it's hair and body cleaner. 4-star rating for that too.
Does it make your hair extra fluffy or just does the slick
it just
thing?
a little, and then the cleaner, so you're extra shiny. I don't know. A lot of these wrestlers seem to be kind of shiny, so it seems like, honestly, when they say the tea tree oil, it kind of makes sense because, they look slick, and I guess if they're sliding on the ring, you want to kind of grease yourself up so you can get a run for it and then slide. Maybe no.
Not bad.
Ask me what their most interesting product is as it applies to wrestling.
All right. Well, you already had me with the shampoo. So what is their most interesting product?
The blood spill kit.
Sorry, what?
Oh, and then there's the blood spill protection pack. Ooh. When you're wrestling, what do you think? You think you might get bumped, bruised, or, kind of ooze something?
Okay, see, when you
your
talk
face says
about
that.
it makes sense. But just the outstanding, we have a blood skill kit. Are we murdering people now?
I don't know if that doubles for that. I'm just laughing. We're
Please
watching.
do not test this.
Exactly right. Don't send pictures. Don't send pictures. It just cracks me up. We're watching wrestling and they're getting beat up and bruised. They don't have a bruise kit, but it's like, if you get cut, they have the kit for you, and they don't want you to, leave that on the mat, because then that would not be
Unsanitary.
That'd be unsanitary. And they're all about, hey, we're killing germs and
Blood cells, apparently.
yeah, ooh, ooh, ooh. I just thought it was fascinating that they're bragging about this, right? You go on their website and they're like, hey, we sell this. Although I did kind of crack up because there wasn't a rating on that one, but I know they're selling because
I'd love to read the customer reviews on this.
I'm just laughing. I would love to write a review, but I haven't bought it. So they'd probably say unauthorized or unverified purchase. I just wanted to say something. The other thing they do, which is nice, they'll take your big orders. They'll give you quotes. They give you a return. It's funny. They have a little blog, and I'm like, oh, what's their blog say? Hey, we're doing this. Their blog is 3 posts. So I think they're still kind of developing that a little bit. The other thing that they had that I thought was actually pretty cool was, if you go on their site, what they will do is they will give you safety data sheets. And if you want to know what their products include before you buy them, which I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. It will tell you all the ingredients, the percentages and everything. So you don't have to buy it and then you put the little tea tree stuff on and then you break out in hives or your hair kind of falls out. Wow. You can read what's going on before you even,
Hey, I'm a big fan of full disclosure, so.
They are full disclosure. And in case you are interested, they even have the Kennedy mirror stickers.
What does that work? Is it their logo and they just stamp it on a mirror?
Well, it just says, hey, we're looking after you. Kennedy Industries takes care of you. A little bit of PR going on for them.
Feels
no
a little
sponsoring.
mafioso.
Yeah, we're not going to put one over the sign back there because they didn't sponsor us. But I laugh because their whole thing is, we're just keeping it clean.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, unfortunately, no sponsorship. However, if you're in the ring and bad things happen, you can get their little, mop or their little blood skill kit. Ooh.
Thanks, Kennedy Industries, for not sponsoring us. It's that time in the show where we want to hear from you. We'd love to see your comments on our videos, especially your rating the movie and why. Now let's talk about some of the cool comments we've been getting.
First up, we have Eve Bennett 6041 commented on our review of Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. Here's what she said. People really need to see this movie. Even if you're not a fan, it is still wonderful to watch the production. It is probably the best out there, period. Wow, she's excited. It was technically and visually exquisite. The dancing and the musicality were superb. Please go see it. Lots of exclamation points. She is crazy excited about this.
I count 6 exclamation points in this review alone.
That's awesome. But don't we want to hear from our cinema community, not just what we have to say?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool to see the perspective of other people in the cinema community. Can't just be us. Our cinema community includes you too.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much for that. And I just appreciated the positivity. It wasn't, I read it and I'm like, how does she really feel? I was like, no, it's great. It's super. She's excited. That's the way to talk about it, Eve. Good job.
Next up, we have Mel Eve 28, speaking of Eves, commenting on our review of The Shift. Here's what they had to say. I agree. This movie tried to be a strong sci-fi and faith-based movie and kind of missed the mark on both. Interesting premise, but I think it fell a little flat. Yeah, I know what I said.
How do you not agree with the agree? And I appreciated that comment because obviously that was our sentiment, but I appreciate other people interjecting too, because it could have been, hey, it felt good here, and boy, you guys missed the mark.
We've had a few of those too.
We've had a few of those too. Thank you for that comment. Finally, we have Roxy Rex, who commented on our review of Saltburn. Here's what they had to say. Oh, wow. Guy was a psychopath and wanted what he couldn't get from his own home, most likely, and manipulated everyone into getting what he wanted. That's it. It was entertaining, but no motive. Oof.
That's their perspective.
I'm laughing, but that's a pretty fair analysis. Was he a psychopath? Yeah, kind of looked that way. Did he manipulate?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of did. The motive is interesting because I don't think it was entirely fleshed out, but it did feel greed for sure in my mind. But it is painful if you watch it and you say, I don't know the motive, or the movie, as we said, the movie didn't tell the story well enough for me to know what the motive is.
I've gotten that comment from a few people that they feel like the movie was still missing something to clear it up. And then I have people on the other side of the camp going, it was completely clear to me why Oliver was the mysterious bad guy.
That cracks me up because I agree. I think it both can be true.
At the same time.
I know. And it's crazy. It's not like, oh, hey, you missed it. Well, that's true too.
You're right, and you're also right.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Fiddler on the Roof quote right there.
Exactly. Well, Saltburn's streaming. The debate continues.
Check it out on Amazon Prime if you haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. And now it's time for some Hollywood news. Rebecca.
So I know we rarely report on rumors, but this one felt substantial enough that I felt like we needed to address it on the show.
Substantial rumor number 1.
Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount Plus are discussing merging together.
Oh, whoa. And you're reading this from where and who and what?
This is from The Hollywood Reporter.
All right.
So you know it's legit. Or at least their source is legit because they said unnamed source on this one.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
And this is who talking?
This is Alex Weprin.
Okay. And what's his thought around all of this?
Their thought is that because these two studio heads are discussing a possible merger,
wow,
it would be a good thing for both companies. Especially consider that Warner Brothers Discovery's HBO Max doesn't really have as much of a streaming platform as Paramount Plus is proving themselves to be. Paramount Plus specifically, their network strategy is kind of faltering. So this would be a good thing for both of them, according to Alex.
Okay. And this is what, a 5-year plan? Or when is this?
Get out your planners. The earliest that this could possibly go into effect is April 2024. There's actually agreements stating that Warner Brothers cannot do any merging deals, especially because they had just wrapped up the Discovery deal so recently.
Wow, this would be wild.
It'd be wild and also be interesting to see how this affects the film landscape too.
That's true. This isn't just shows or documentaries or...
This is a monopoly, honestly. I'm kind of wary about this.
Well, I'm just thinking so many companies are merging, or even when we go to the movies, it's 20th Century Fox, Amazon company, or Spotlight, and somebody always owns them. I remember back when Turner was the man. It just cracked me up. It's like, it's no longer just studios. It's, oh, by the way, this is who is funding you and who owns you now. Literally.
What's that quote from Robin Williams where he goes, I wish politicians would have stickers showing who sponsored them. At this point, I want movie directors to do the same thing.
I would agree with that. Do we have any questions from the box?
Do you think that if they do merge, they can double their rate? Basically the rate of Warner and the rate of Paramount? Or do you think they're going to have to do something more like, 1.5 times what one of them is already charging right now?
Look, I don't like paying any more money for this as much as the next guy, which is a lot of guys. But I could see them making an argument that this is going to bring more value to them. The problem you have, people are having streaming service fatigue, especially in the US with inflation being what it is. A lot of people are like, really, just one more thing? One more thing? It just feels like I'm paying for TV all over again.
I'm thinking the box and I were at an event recently, and the conversation was, we're cutting this service. We're not doing this. This is this. This costs too much here. And you're right. I think people are fatigued and honestly a little bit irritated. Even if you said, when you were saying it adds, or the box was saying it adds value. Well, when something's added value, that means you're paying more, which clearly understood, right? For value, you should. However, how much value do you want, AE, right? Or IE, how much do you want to pay?
The other thing is you have streaming services taking shows off their streaming.
Oh, back to that. Oh,
come on. I'm an advocate for this.
I understand. I could see you being irritated by that.
I was so excited. One of our house homies has Hulu, has Disney Plus. Thanks to Bob Iger's clever machinations, the two are now one. So I went on there and I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I totally missed that Danny Boyle series on that infamous British band that I can't name because of YouTube censoring.
Oh, right.
I'm going to go look for it. You know what happened? It wasn't on there.
Oh, but that's a great point, because if you purchase this and you're like, yeah, and things disappear as either a result of the merger or they had already disappeared and the merger isn't helping bring that back, that would be irritating.
If you're going to get more money from me, keep your content, please.
That would be the statement. I hear there's more Hollywood news, maybe less inflammatory and cheaper.
A lot fluffier.
A lot fluffier. Talk to me.
This one's for you.
Ooh.
I want you to know. Can you feel the Kenergy? Because it's been overwhelming you all freaking year.
It has. I love the Barbie movie. 5 Moth movie. Yes. What's going on?
Ryan Gosling is singing up a new tune. 3 more versions of I'm Just Ken.
Actually, I think I sent you the Christmas version. I may know about such fluffy Ken news, but please tell us who you're finding this from.
Carly Thomas from The Hollywood Reporter. Man, it's a Hollywood Reporter week.
It is. What is she telling us?
You know how the Oscars are all about best original song, and that race gets a lot of ears and eye play, so to speak?
Yes.
They're going a little bit further, not to be outdone by Billie Eilish's SNL appearance of What Was I Made For? 3 versions of Ken, plus a music video. And I want to point out, this song is a freaking meme. Back to the SNL thing, when Pete Davidson was hosting, he even did a parody called I'm Just Pete. This song is just taking the internet by force. It's being nominated in almost every original song race there is right now. I know you're happy.
I'm thrilled. You will appreciate my love for Ken and all things Barbie and Ken.
Oh boy.
It was a night just like tonight.
Was it the worst accident I've ever seen?
It's going to come that way.
Oh boy.
Boxes sound asleep, cardboard's moving, just nothing going on. I, snuck downstairs, at our place. You were at your place, and I thought, no, probably don't text you at your place. You may be sleeping, probably not, but And I laughed because I pulled up YouTube, listened to the I'm Just Ken, the full song, and of course I've sent it to you and 500 of my closest friends. You know how many views that stinking thing has?
How many?
This will shock you. 11 million, over 11 million views.
Holy crap.
Yeah, right. And then the Christmas one, the one I just sent you, almost 2 million. And it's only been out, what, a few days at this point?
Dang.
So the third one, I'm excited. I'm ready. You could send that to me. Cinema community, please comment below if you've seen the Ken song. Which one do you like best?
That's a good question. I'm curious as well.
And if you haven't, if I haven't got the third one by the time this airs, please send me the link to that one. I'd be happy to watch it and sing it, and I can do the whole thing for you.
Is that just going to be a bonus feature this year?
I think it's great, and I don't know if it's just for the Oscar push or not. It may be.
I feel like it's just for the Oscar push.
So you feel like it's a shameless
ploy.
Ken promotion?
Utterly shameless ploy, considering that these two songs are getting so much more airplay as the award show leads up to it. The other thing you have to consider, Barbie is officially released, I'm going to sound old, on home video, on home release.
That's true.
And on digital format. So this definitely reeks of shameless ploy. Not that I'm complaining, because you're happy. And
I'm happy.
I know a large chunk of our cinema community is going to be happy with this news. But it still feels a little...
kind of slimy.
Yeah. I think I would like to see Ryan Gosling perform this live in character at the Oscars.
Oh, 100%. I am so down with that.
He's already committed to the bit as Ken. Give him a bigger stage.
I like him, though, and I'm not talking, because he's got the spray on tan and everything, but he's funny. His new movie is going to come out in a few months, and we've already seen the trailers for that, The Fall Guy.
Oh, The Fall Guy looks hilarious. And you got the dude from John Wick, David Leitch.
Yes. It'll be pretty good.
I love this, what would you say, Gosling-naissance?
Oh, there's a word. I'm sure it's in the dictionary.
I don't know what freaking dictionary it would be in, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the internet.
The Rebecca Unabridged Dictionary.
Patent publishing, still not published yet?
Yeah, patent pending.
I don't know. I'm really interested to see more of this. I'm always a big fan of music tying into movies, and I think this is a smart way to do it.
Well, 11 million people think so, too.
Or maybe one mom just listening to it 5 million times.
It's great. Well, the box, he's sleeping. He doesn't care. If I play it loud and wake him up, there may be a discussion that ensues the following. Chaos ensues.
Discussion ensues.
Do we have any questions from the box?
Do you think the Ken fans are going to get Ken overloaded on this?
I think there's only one Ken song in the entire movie, and the song is a ballad, so it can encompass a great variety of emotions through Ken's journey in this film. That being said, if you're going to do a Ken EP, take the track kind of like the Spider-Man Christmas album that they did for Spider-Verse. Commit to the bid. Go big. Grow. Look at this as an opportunity for your audience to grow.
I'm laughing. Go pink or go home is what I was expecting you to say on that one.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even think
I'm thinking you're going to go pink or go home. You're like, well, actually, I'm like, oh. I don't think I should be the one to answer the is it overload. I'm still liking it. It's still
500 of your closest friends is not an exaggeration.
I know, right? I'm still thinking it's a great song. If it wins Oscar, I'm
going to get like 20 texts at work when it wins, if it wins.
And they're all not coming from me.
Yep.
I enjoyed the entire soundtrack, to be fair.
Even the Nicki Minaj Ice Spice collab, I was surprised you enjoyed that.
That's kind of scary, isn't it? Well, Night at the Roxbury still graces our home, so.
But those are good songs.
Yeah, I know. I hear it. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Next week, we are excited to be reviewing Poor Things and our Movies and More weekly show, the new movie, The Color Purple. With all the new movies coming out, we might review a couple others. Double check your notifications.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this show, you might check out last week where we reviewed Wonka. And on our Movies and More weekly show, we reviewed The Boys in the Boat.
Remember, cinema community movies are better together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.